The huge metal doors of the Galactic Council room opened with a sound like thunder rolling through the station's endless corridors. The chamber itself was vast, a circle of alien power, where beings from across the stars gathered to argue, to posture, to protect their fragile peace. Ambassador Keithvar stepped inside. His body shimmered faintly, crystal facets that caught the light and fractured it into rainbows, but his movements betrayed him. The delicate glass-like limbs shook with every step, as if the weight of the void itself pressed upon him. Around the massive table, the galaxy's rulers and emissaries turned their gaze on him. Some had scaled hides, others fur that rippled with unease. Some hovered like floating clouds of sentient gas, while others pulsed with internal light. Together, they were the image of a galaxy that thought itself eternal. But fear cracked their composure the instant they saw Keithvar. At the human section, Jake Harrison leaned forward. He was tall but tired, his gray hair trimmed short, his eyes sunken from years of service. He had been Earth's ambassador for a decade, watching humanity stumble into galactic politics with the clumsy steps of a species new to the stars. At his side, Dr. Lisa Chang, Earth's chief xenobiologist, tapped nervously on her datapad, her brows knitted as streams of numbers ran across her screen. "Great Council members," Keithvar said. His voice sounded like wind over broken glass. The sound was fragile, haunting. "I come before you not as a leader, not as a diplomat, but as one of the last of my people. We are dying, and we beg for sanctuary." A hush fell over the chamber. Even the insectoid delegates with their clicking mandibles grew silent. From Keithvar's crystal hand, a blue glow flared and spread, projecting a holomap into the air. Stars and planets swirled in three-dimensional light, but many of the systems were dark, snuffed out like candles in a storm. The image shifted again. Great black shapes moved between stars. They were not ordinary ships. They pulsed as if alive, their surfaces rippling like breathing flesh. Tubes and wires writhed across them like veins. "These ships belong to the Devourer Collective," Keithvar whispered. "They have destroyed 17 civilizations. They did not just kill them, they consumed them. Entire worlds, people, animals, plants, even memories, stripped bare and remade into fuel." Gasps and shouts echoed around the table. Some aliens chittered nervously, others let out low, mournful cries. Admiral Roy Blake, Earth's top military commander, leaned forward in his chair. His uniform bore scars of countless campaigns, medals pinned to his chest like shards of old wars. His face was granite. 17! His voice was low, dangerous. Keithvar's crystal body dimmed. "And soon more. They change us. They turn our people into their own weapons, our friends, our families, taken, twisted, aware of what they do but powerless to resist." The holomap shifted again, showing horrific scenes. Whole crystal cities crumbling as black tendrils wrapped around them. Screaming faces half-fused into living metal hulls. Ships that were not only prisons but abominations. The altar commander, the Zara, a towering alien with blue skin and double forearms, stood. "We fought them. We had the strongest weapons in the galaxy, shields that could stop any beam, missiles that could shatter moons. None of it mattered. They learn, they adapt. Every battle makes them stronger." Dr. Chang paled as she looked at her tablet. Her voice was barely a whisper. "The data is real. Whole systems gone dark. Entire species erased." The insectoid delegate with golden wings hissed in fear. "Those they take remain alive inside the ships. They see, they feel, but they cannot control themselves. Imagine eternity as a prisoner in your own body." The chamber filled with cries of horror. Admiral Blake's jaw tightened. "How long until they reach the galactic heart?" 6 months, Keithvar answered softly. "Perhaps less. They move slowly, but they do not stop. Each world feeds them, each soul strengthens them." He looked around the council chamber. His crystal body flickered dimly now like a dying flame. "We do not ask you to fight. We ask only for mercy, a place where our children may hide before we are consumed." For a moment there was silence. Then Jake Harrison stood. His voice was rough but strong. "And if hiding isn't enough, if they reach us all?" Keithvar raised his head, fragile light shining through his fractured body. "Then you will join us in darkness." The words hung heavy in the chamber. Admiral Blake leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. "Tell me, Ambassador, in all your battles with the Collective, did you ever hurt them, even a little?" Keithvar hesitated. His body flashed faintly, almost like a memory of hope. "Once, early in the war, we damaged a smaller ship. It screamed, it healed, and then it grew stronger. It destroyed 3 of our cities in rage. Blake's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. So it can feel pain. Jake Harrison frowned. Sir. But Blake wasn't listening. His gaze was fixed on the holographic monsters, and in his eyes glimmered something dangerous, something old. As the meeting ended, the council dissolved into chaos, some species plotting to flee, others whispering surrender. Keithvar lingered, staring after the humans as they left. He had begged for mercy. What he had found in Blake's eyes was something else entirely. A whisper of war. Cliffhanger, end of part 1. As Blake and his officers walked back through the station's long corridors, Jake asked quietly, "Sir, we can't fight that. Our weapons are nothing compared to theirs." Blake stopped at a viewport, staring at the stars. "Jake, do you remember what humans did when the great beasts of Earth tried to eat us?" "We didn't get bigger, we didn't get stronger," Jake said slowly. Blake's voice was a low growl. "No, we got smarter, and we made them afraid of us." Behind them, Keithvar watched the human ship depart. For the first time in months, a spark of hope stirred in his fatting crystal chest, or perhaps a terrible mistake. 3 months later, Earth's skis were no longer silent. From the frozen tundra of Siberia to the deserts of Nevada, rockets lifted and vanished into orbit, ferrying men, women, and supplies to the defense stations above. Shipyards once used for quiet exploration now burned with furious activity, constructing vessels at a pace that broke every law of safety. Earth had not built fleets like this since the Cold Wars of the 21st century, but this time, the stakes were not land or resources. It was survival. Admiral Roy Blake stood deep beneath Geneva in a fortified command center where walls of screens glowed with grim data. Every hour, another star system fell. Each dot of light on the galactic map winked out, leaving only red emptiness in its place. Lieutenant Kevin Adams, barely 25 and fresh out of academy training, looked pale as he reported. "Sir, scouts say the collective's ships are growing bigger. Some are the size of moons now. Each one is a city, a weapon, and a graveyard combined." Blake walked closer to the display, his jaw tightening. "Every planet they consume makes them stronger." Dr. Lisa Chang entered the room carrying a folder stuffed with printed papers. She had not slept in days. Her eyes were shadowed, but her mind was sharp. She spread the images across the table. "Admiral, the collective's ships aren't just part living. They're entirely alive. Every piece of their hull, every circuit, every weapon, it's made of the species they've consumed. Thousands of conscious beings fused together." Adams recoiled. "You mean the ships are people?" Chang nodded grimly. "And worse, they're aware, trapped in flesh and steel, watching as they kill their own families." The room grew heavy with silence. Then the doors hissed open. General Marcus Cole strode in with the swagger of a soldier who had never lost a battle. Beside him walked a small woman in civilian clothes, her gray hair tied back. Her eyes gleamed with something sharp and unsettling. "Admiral Blake," Cole announced. "This is Dr. Helen Ross." Blake raised an eyebrow. "I know the name. Biological Weapons Division, shut down years ago." Ross gave a thin smile. "Banned, Admiral, not shut down. Some of us kept working." Blake crossed his arms. "And why is that relevant now?" "Because every other species in this galaxy fights with energy beams and missile barrages," Ross said, stepping forward. "They build bigger shields, stronger cannons, more advanced toys. But humans," she leaned close, her voice almost a whisper, "humans carry an arsenal no one else dares imagine." Dr. Chang frowned. "What do you mean?" Ross tapped her tablet, projecting magnified images of human blood cells. "Our biology. We evolved on the deadliest world in known space. Earth tried to kill us with viruses, parasites, bacteria, plagues. We survived by adapting, by becoming immune. Our bodies are libraries of death, immune memories of every disease that ever tried to wipe us out." Blake's eyes narrowed. "You want to weaponize our immune system?" "Not just weaponize it," Ross said, smiling grimly. "I want to feed it to the collective. Every disease, every infection, every parasite humanity has ever endured. Let them choke on millions of years of survival." Adams looked sick. "That's insane." Ross shrugged. "Insane or inevitable, the collective absorbs everything it touches, but it has never met prey that poisons the predator from within." Before Blake could answer, alarms shrieked. Red lights strobed across the chamber. Captain Sam Torres burst inside, holding a comm device. Emergency signal from the Cathar system. The collective is there, right now. The main screen lit up. Crystal towers of the Zephyrian homeworld shimmered in pale beauty until shadows fell across them. Massive bioships descended like vultures. Their tendrils pierced the shining spires, draining life and light. Screams filled the channel. Ambassador Keithvar, Blake demanded. A broken signal answered, Keithvar's voice distorted by static and pain. Human friends, they are here. My people are being taken. Their screams, I can still hear them, even as their bodies vanish into the ships. I send you coordinates, their main construction site. They are building something terrible for Earth. The image flickered, then died. Silence filled the room. General Cole swore under his breath. Blake turned sharply. How fast can we mobilize? 48 hours, Cole said. But our fleet is small, only 37 ships, and most are barely beyond prototype. Good, Blake said, his eyes hard. Ross folded her arms. My weapon is ready, but there's a cost. The collective won't absorb data remotely. They'll need living material close contact, which means our people will be the delivery system. Chang's eyes widened. You mean letting humans be absorbed? Ross smiled coldly. Not humans, bait. Copies of human biology engineered to fight from inside. Soldiers who carry death in their cells. If the collective touches them, it will unleash everything we've survived. Adams shook his head. That's madness. We're talking about sacrificing our people. No, Blake said, his voice like steel. We're talking about surviving. The alarms blared again. This time the display showed a storm of red markers, civilian colonies under attack, refugee ships shredded, medical stations burned. They're creating terror, Torres said bitterly, breaking morale before they move for the core. Blake looked at his officers. He saw fear in their faces, but also something else, something he had seen in humans across every age. The spark that lit fires in caves, that forged weapons from stone, that drove them to fight impossible wars. He drew a slow breath. Every species in this galaxy has fought the collective the same way, beams, missiles, shields, and every one of them has failed. He slammed his fist on the table. We will not fight like them, we will fight like us. Cliffhanger, end of part 2. The screen suddenly flickered, showing an image so horrific that the entire command center froze. Ambassador Keithvar appeared, but he was no longer crystal. His once shining body was laced with writhing black veins and metal tendrils. His eyes glowed with alien light, yet tears of liquid crystal streamed down his cheeks. Humans, he whispered in a chorus of voices. The collective knows you now, they hunger for you, and they are coming. The signal cut to black. The war councils of Earth had never worked this fast before. For centuries, bureaucracy had slowed every decision, but now, with the shadow of extinction looming, hesitation was burned away. The UES Defiant, Earth's newest battleship, hung in orbit over Geneva, its hull still unfinished in places. Engineers swarmed like ants across its surface, welding plates and bolting guns that had been designed in desperation. Compared to the sleek vessels of older civilizations, the Defiant was crude, boxy, bristling with weapons that looked outdated even by human standards. Yet it had one advantage the others did not. It had been built with a mind to fight dirty. Admiral Blake stood on its bridge, his hands clasped behind his back. Through the viewports, he could see the stars, serene and uncaring. Somewhere out there, the collective moved closer with each passing hour. Dr. Helen Ross's voice broke the silence. The delivery system is ready. Blake turned. She stood by a console, her tablet projecting the schematics of a human immune cell magnified 1,000 times. Each volunteer has been modified to carry an arsenal of diseases in their body. Some are ancient plagues, others are engineered hybrids. Their cells are walking minefields. Once the collective tries to absorb them, the infection will spread through the hive mind like fire. Lieutenant Adams swallowed hard. Volunteers, you mean real people? Ross didn't blink. Yes, they know the risks, they know it may kill them, they signed anyway. Jake Harrison, the ambassador who had joined the military briefing as a political liaison, scowled. We can't just send our own to die like this. There has to be another way. Ross's cold eyes cut to him. Tell me, ambassador, when was the last time mercy stopped a predator from eating you? The silence stretched. Blake finally spoke, his voice gravelly. Earth's history is written in blood. When wolves hunted us, we set traps. When plagues rose, we survived them. When enemies came, we fought until we were the last thing standing. If this is the only way, then so be it. The comms officer interrupted. Admiral, incoming transmission, Galactic Council priority channel. The screen flared to life. The council chamber appeared, filled with delegates who looked smaller, more frightened than before. The Zara, the blue-skinned altar commander, leaned forward. Admiral Blake, reports have reached us of your plan, biological warfare, madness. You risk infecting the galaxy itself. Others shouted in agreement. The insected with golden wings hissed. Humans would poison all of us just to win their war. This is barbarism. Jake Harrison stepped forward, his voice steady despite the storm. You begged us for sanctuary, you begged us for help, and now you scorn us because we refuse to die the same way you did? You want us to fight with your weapons, your tactics, the same ones the collective has already beaten 17 times. But we aren't you. We are human. Humans will doom us all, a reptilian counselor snarled. Blake cut in, his tone like iron. No, we will save you whether you like it or not, because Earth doesn't fight wars to look noble, we fight to win. The council chamber erupted in chaos, accusations and insults flying. Blake ended the transmission with a sharp gesture. The screen went black. Ross smirked faintly. It seems we've made friends. Blake's face was stone. I don't care, let them hate us so long as we survive. Hours later, the Defiant and 36 other ships emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Cathar system. The sight that met them stole the breath from every throat. Where once had floated the Zephyrian homeworld, a jewel of crystal towers and shining cities, there was now only horror. A vast, pulsating mass of black and silver hung in orbit. It was the size of a small moon, its surface rippling with veins of stolen light. Towers of crystal jutted out from its sides, fused into the grotesque body of the bioship. They still shone faintly, as if screaming in silent agony. Lieutenant Park whispered, Sir, that's not a ship, that's a graveyard. No, Blake said coldly, that's our enemy. Suddenly the main screen flickered. The image of Ambassador Keithvar appeared again. But he was no longer himself. His crystalline body had been pierced with black tendrils. His once clear form now pulsed with veins of dark flesh and wires. His face twisted in torment, his voice echoing with the tones of 1,000 others. Humans, you should not have come. The collective knows you now. They hunger for your flesh, your memories, your endless violence. You will feed them. You will make them unstoppable. Blake stepped closer, his voice steady. Ambassador, is there any way to free you? Keithvar's glowing eyes dimmed. No freedom, only absorption, only the whole. But hear me, they plan to take Earth slowly, to study you, to understand why you are different. Run while you still can. The image flickered and shifted. Keithvar's face dissolved into a writhing mass of alien visages, dozens of species, speaking in unison. We are the collective. We are 17 species made one. We have consumed their knowledge, their memories, their fears, and now we will consume yours. The voices merged into a single thunderous sound. Humanity, you will teach us the art of war. Blake's lips curved into a dangerous smile. Then lesson 1, you've mistaken us for prey. He gave a hand signal. Across the fleet, switches were thrown. Humans didn't fire missiles. They didn't launch beams. Instead, they began transmitting on every frequency. Not threats, not ultimatums, data. The full biological history of Earth. Every virus that had ever swept across humanity. Every parasite that had ever dug into flesh. Every plague that had killed millions and been survived. Every immune response encoded into human blood over millions of years. Humanity's greatest weapon was not its ships, it was its survival. On the screens, the massive bioship shuddered. Its organic flesh convulsed as if struck by invisible fire. The hive mind staggered beneath the flood of alien data. For the first time in its history, it could not absorb what it consumed. Its own body began to fight itself. Sir, Park gasped, it's working. Blake's eyes blazed. All ships attack Pattern Alpha 7, tear them apart. The Defiant's cannons roared. Human ships surged forward, not in neat formations like civilized fleets, but scattered, chaotic, predatory. Some rammed into weakened hulls, detonating their own reactors to carve wounds too deep to heal. Others sprayed debris into the enemy's path, turning space itself into a minefield. Humanity fought like no other species had ever fought. Not with elegance, not with rules, but with desperation, cunning, and fury. Cliffhanger end of Part 3. The collective ships shrieked across the comms, their voices blending into a tortured roar. For the first time in centuries, they were in pain. But as one ship burst apart in fire and flesh, the others began to change. Their forms twisted, growing new armor, new organs, filtering out the data. Lieutenant Adams stared at the readings, his voice trembling. "Admiral, they're adapting already." The largest ship turned toward the Defiant, its eyes blazing with stolen light. And in a single, unified voice, the collective spoke again. "Fascinating, your chaos hurts us, but now we will learn from it." The first battle between Earth's fleet and the Devourer collective shook the void itself. The Defiant's bridge was lit with the fire of exploding ships, the shadows of human vessels darting like wolves among leviathans. For every bioship that faltered under the flood of Earth's diseases and desperate tactics, another twisted itself, mutating in moments to resist the assault. Lieutenant Adams' voice trembled. "Admiral, they're changing their physiology. Their organic hulls are filtering the data streams. They're learning how to ignore us." "Not fast enough," Blake growled. "Press the attack." Human ships fought savagely. The destroyer Fury rammed into a bioship the size of a city, detonating its reactor in a blaze so bright it was visible from light years away. Captain Wilson's last words echoed through every channel. "You ever wonder why humans get bitten by poisonous snakes and live to tell the story? Let me show you." The detonation shredded the collective vessel, scattering pieces of flesh and steel into orbit. But the victory came at a cost. Half the human fleet was gone, their wreckage floating among the debris fields they had themselves created. And the enemy was still standing. The main screen flickered again. The collective's voice spoke, layered with the tones of 100 species. "Humanity, your tactics are primitive but effective. Your diseases are chaotic but intriguing. We withdraw not in defeat but in preparation. We will return with the memory of your violence." The surviving bioships vanished into hyperspace. A stunned silence filled the Defiant's bridge. "They're retreating," Torres whispered. Adams shook his head, horrified. "No, they're studying us. Next time they'll be ready." Hours later, the battlefield was quiet but filled with grim echoes. Human search and rescue teams scoured the wreckage, pulling survivors from shattered escape pods. But among the twisted remains of collective ships, something unexpected appeared. "Sir," Park called out, her eyes wide. "We're detecting life signs, alien survivors." The bridge held its breath as pods drifted into view, small capsules ejected from the collective vessels before they jumped. They glowed faintly, pulsing with alien energy. Inside, figures moved weakly, struggling against confinement. When the pods were cracked open, cries of shock echoed across the decks. Refugees, thousands of them. Species thought long extinct stumbled out of the pods. Their bodies were scarred, altered, fused with fragments of collective machinery, but their minds were their own again. Among them was Ambassador Keithvar. He collapsed onto the deck of the Defiant, his crystal body dimmed and cracked, streaked with black veins of alien corruption. Yet his voice was clear as he spoke. "You saved us. For a moment when your chaos struck the hive mind, their control weakened. We broke free." Dr. Chang knelt beside him, her hands trembling as she scanned him. "Ambassador, you're fused with their biology." Keithvar's light flickered in sorrow. "Yes, I carry their memories now, I see what they see, and I know what drives them." The bridge fell silent, every ear straining. "The collective is not only hunger," Keithvar whispered. "It is fear. They run from something greater, a predator that destroyed their creators long ago. They believe that if they consume enough, if they become vast enough, they will survive when it comes again." Adams paled. "You're saying we're not just fighting them, we're fighting whatever they're afraid of." Keithvar's body dimmed further. "Yes, and it is coming." Back on Earth, weeks later, the galaxy was in uproar. The news of humanity's battle spread like wildfire. Dozens of alien fleets arrived at Earth's orbit, not in alliance but in suspicion. To some, humans were saviors. To others, monsters too dangerous to be left unchecked. In the underground research facilities, Dr. Ross worked with alien scientists who dared to collaborate. Crystal-bodied survivors like Dr. Vexahai joined her, curious about humanity's biology and tactics. "Your immune system confuses me," Vexahai admitted as he examined samples of human blood. It remembers every battle. It keeps records of every predator it ever faced. This is not normal. Ross smirked. On Earth, normal meant dead. Blake entered the lab, exhaustion etched into his face. Doctor, the collective is building something at the Galactic Rim, something enormous. Ross frowned. Another bioship. Bigger, Blake said grimly. The size of a small moon, and this time it's designed to counter us specifically. The room fell silent. Dr. Vexahai's crystal body pulsed brighter. Admiral, may I ask about human history? How do your people respond to extinction-level threats? Blake raised an eyebrow. We don't roll over. Cole, standing behind him, barked a humorless laugh. We get creative, real creative. Vexahai glowed brighter. Yes, that is what I see. Every other species reacts predictably to doom, despair, surrender, desperate cooperation, but you humans become stronger. You turn danger into opportunity. Captain Torres activated a holographic projection, filling the air with images from Earth's cultural archives. Beasts of myth appeared. Werewolves, demons, vampires, nightmares that haunted humanity's oldest stories. I've been thinking, Torres said. Every civilization on Earth invented monsters, legends about what lurks in the dark. What if those weren't just stories? What if they were warnings about what we can become when pushed too far? Ross stared at the images. You're suggesting we become our own monsters. Blake looked out the window at the stars, his face carved in shadow. If monsters are what the galaxy needs, then monsters are what we'll give them. The underground bunkers beneath Geneva were alive with preparation. For 72 hours, humanity shed its thin skin of civilization and reached backward through its bloody history. The command center was lit by harsh white light. Admiral Blake stood before a wall-sized display of Earth, the planet glowing blue and green, fragile against the void. Around him, officers moved with urgency. Engineers updated schematics. Medics prepared kits not for survival, but for sacrifice. Soldiers checked weapons older than any space fleet, blades, chemical explosives, harpoons, even sharpened spears. General Cole slammed a hand onto the table. We can't outgun them, we can't outbuild them, so we'll outpredator them. Dr. Ross spoke coldly, as if it was the only truth left. We've trained the Survival Corps for decades. 50,000 men and women who know how to live where nothing should, Arctic specialists, desert survivors, deep ocean divers. They've learned to outlast nature itself. Now they'll teach the collective what it means to choke on prey that bites back. Captain Maria Santos entered the room, tall and broad-shouldered, her eyes sharp as a knife. She was commander of the Deep Hunters, the Corps' most extreme unit. She saluted Blake. We're ready, sir. You tell us where to go, and we'll crawl into the beast's belly ourselves. Blake studied her. There was no fear in her gaze, only the calm of someone who had stared at death so many times that it had lost its teeth. Your mission, Blake said quietly, is to let them take you. Infiltrate the ship, tear it apart from the inside. Some officers flinched at his words, but Santos only nodded. Like hunting squid in the Mariana Trenches, just bigger. 3 days later, the sky above Earth darkened. The collective's supership arrived. It filled half the heavens, blotting out the stars. A living moon of flesh and metal, poolsing with stolen energy, screaming with the minds of 17 species fused into one endless hunger. Its tendrils stretched like roots into the void. Its surface shifted constantly, mutating and repairing itself. Billions on Earth watched in horror as it eclipsed the dawn. Cities fell silent. Children clutched their parents' hands. Priests, scientists, and soldiers alike prayed. Admiral Blake stood on the bridge of the Defiant, staring at the monster that had come to devour them. His jaw was tight, his heart steady. All units, report. Fleet in position, Torres replied. 37 ships ready, God help us. Ground defenses online, Adams said, his voice thin but determined. Missile silos armed, orbital lasers charged. Survival Corps locked and loaded, General Cole growled. Every one of them volunteered. Blake nodded once. Then let's show the galaxy why Earth was never conquered by its own monsters. The first strike came not from space, but from Earth's oceans. Hidden beneath the waves, chemical rockets launched from deep-sea bases. They were crude, undetectable by the collective's advanced sensors. Each rocket carried an insertion pod, sleek metal cylinders packed with soldiers. Captain Santos led the first wave. As her pod tore through the bioship's outer membrane, alarms screamed inside the alien beast. The hull resisted, but the pods were built for impact. They punched through the flesh-like walls and released their cargo, not bombs, not machines, but human beings. The collective had never fought something like this. Inside the supership, Santos activated her comm. Her voice was calm, steady, carried on static. Team Alpha, breach complete. Welcome to hell. The corridors around them pulsed with living tissue. Veins pumped alien fluids through walls of muscle and bone. The air reeked of rot and ozone. Echoes of screams whispered through the ship like ghosts. Lieutenant Cooper whispered, "Sir, movement ahead, something big." From the shadows emerged the ship's guardians, creatures designed by the collective from the deadliest traits of every species they had absorbed. Towering beasts with acid blood, armor like stone, claws that could shear steel. They roared, charging down the corridors. Santos grinned, just another squid. Her harpoon launcher hissed. The spear punched into the creature's chest, releasing chemical charges that exploded inside its body. It shrieked, thrashing even as her team opened fire with weapons forged for brutality, not elegance. Shotguns roared, blades carved, fire tore through flesh. For every monster that fell, another came, but the humans did not falter. They fought with fury born from a world that had never given them mercy. Back on the Defiant, Dr. Vexahai monitored the readings. His crystal body pulsed in shock. "Admiral, the absorption attempts, they're failing." Blake turned sharply. "Explain." "The ship is trying to consume your soldiers," Vexahai said, his light flickering. "But the human minds resist. They don't dissolve into the hive, they fight back. Their consciousnesses are spreading through the network." Ross's lips curled in a smile. "I told you, the collective has never eaten prey like us." On the screens, data surged. The collective's hive mind, once seamless and unified, began to fracture. Noise filled the channels, screams, roars, whispers, all tangled together. Then a new voice broke through. Sergeant Amy Clark, one of the infiltrators, her tone layered with harmonic echoes. "Command, I can hear them, all of them, the species they consumed, they're still alive in here." Adam's eyes widened. "Alive after centuries." "Yes," Clark said, "trapped, tortured, but alive, and now we're freeing them." Her voice shifted, blending with dozens of others. "We are not their prisoners anymore, we are the infection." Inside the bioship, chaos reigned. Human teams moved like predators, striking with precision. Arctic specialists sabotaged the vessel's thermal systems, freezing its organs. Desert fighters poisoned its fluid networks, drying its lifeblood. Deep-sea hunters shattered its supports, tearing holes in its structure. And every time the ship tried to absorb a human, that human's mind tore through the hive consciousness like wildfire, breaking chains, liberating enslaved voices. For the first time in its existence, the collective's unity shattered. On the Defiant, Blake watched the readings spike wildly. "Status." Vexahai's crystal body glowed like fire. "Admiral, your people are turning the collective against itself. They are becoming the monsters inside the monster." The battlefield above Earth was silent at first. The collective supership hung broken in orbit, its colossal body tearing itself apart from within. Great fissures split its surface as screams echoed across the void, millions of voices breaking free from centuries of slavery. Liberation, agony, and rage thundered in the psychic storm. On the Defiant's bridge, officers clutched their heads against the echo of 1,000 minds screaming at once. Then, slowly, the noise began to fade, replaced by individual voices. "This is Drath of the Saloon," one said. "This is Captain Keller of the Zarin fleet. This is Ambassador Keithvar, I am free." Alien survivors poured from the collapsing beast, drifting in shattered pods or staggering out of ruptured membranes. Rescue teams scrambled to collect them. Lieutenant Adams' voice shook. "Sir, they're alive, hundreds of thousands, maybe millions, species we thought lost forever." The bridge erupted in disbelief and hope. Humanity had not just survived, they had saved others. But Admiral Blake's eyes stayed fixed on the sensors. Something was wrong. "Report," he barked. Park hesitated, her hands trembling on the console. "Sir, fragments of the collective are still alive, splitting off, regenerating. They're mutating without the hive mind's control." On screen, pieces of the bioship wriggled free, reshaping themselves into smaller vessels. They pulsed erratically, some shrieking as half-freed minds fought for dominance inside. Dr. Vexahai's crystal body dimmed in dread. Without unity, they are unstable, but also unpredictable, predators with no leash. Before Blake could answer, a deeper rumble shook the sensors. A new signal, not collective, not anything known. Far beyond the wreckage, space rippled. Something enormous was approaching, its presence so vast it bent gravity itself. Stars flickered and dimmed as if recoiling from its passage. The freed survivors felt it too. Across the comms, panicked voices cried out. "It's coming. The true predator. The one they ran from." Keithvar's cracked, crystalline face appeared on the main screen, his light faint but his voice steady. "Admiral Blake, when I was part of the hive mind, I felt its shadow. The collective was not born from hunger. They were born from terror. They consumed others because they believed only endless absorption would save them from this." Blake's jaw tightened. "What is it?" Keithvar's eyes dimmed like dying stars. They never had a name for it, only a memory, a destroyer of civilizations. The devourers were prey running all this time. Panic rippled across Earth's fleet. Tors swore under his breath. "We just fought the galaxy's nightmare, and it wasn't even the real threat." Dr. Ross folded her arms, her face pale but defiant. "Then we've been training for the right enemy all along. If the collective survived it once, we can kill it the second time." General Cole growled, "Or it kills us before we learn how." Vexahai shook his crystalline head. "You don't understand. The collective was vast, 17 species fused into one, yet even they fled like children. What chance do we have?" Blake turned on him, his eyes burning with cold fire. "The same chance we always have. We don't wait to be prey. We make predators afraid of us." The next hours blurred into chaos. Earth ships hauled survivors into their holds. Crystal beings, insectoids, scaled and furred species, some fused with alien machinery. Many screamed in madness. Others wept in gratitude. In the medical bays, Dr. Chang worked without rest, scanning freed aliens and documenting horrors. "They were conscious the whole time," she whispered. "Centuries of torment, watching themselves kill their own children, and still they endured." One survivor gripped her hand with trembling claws. "Your people gave us back our minds. We owe you everything." Chang swallowed hard. Humanity had not just survived, it had given the galaxy something it hadn't felt in centuries: hope. But hope was fragile. The sensors flared again. The approaching presence grew clearer, its scale dwarfing even the collective's greatest ship. Not a moon-sized vessel, not even a planet-sized one. Larger. A shadow stretched across the star field, a shape so vast it blotted out constellations. Its surface was black, but not the breathing flesh of the collective. It was darker, older, made of matter that seemed to drink light itself. Every console in the Defiant flickered. The ship's AI whispered static as though recoiling. Adam's voice was raw. "Sir, I don't even have numbers. It's bigger than a planet." Vexahai shuddered, his crystal body cracking. "It is the predator, the one that hunts civilizations, and now it has found you." On Earth's surface, billions watched the shadow blot out the night sky. Cities fell silent again. Humanity had barely begun to celebrate victory, and now the true enemy loomed. In the command chamber, Blake stood before his officers and the newly rescued aliens. His voice was steady, even as the ground seemed to shake from the vast thing's arrival. "We broke the collective because we didn't fight like anyone else. We turned our weaknesses into weapons. We made predators choke on us. That's what we'll do again." Cole's voice was rough. "Sir, we barely survived this last fight. What can we throw at something that eats civilizations whole?" Blake looked at Ross, at Chang, at Santos, still active comm channel from inside the dying collective vessel. Then he looked at Earth itself, the planet that had forged them in fire and plague, storm and predator. "We give it what Earth gave us," Blake said quietly. "Every nightmare, every monster, every ounce of human survival written in blood and bone. If this thing wants to taste humanity, it'll find its meal poisoned." Ross's grim smile returned. "Then let's cook it something unforgettable." The shadow swallowed the stars. On Earth's surface, entire cities went dark as the thing beyond worlds stretched its wings across the heavens. It was larger than imagination, a shape carved from living void. The collective had fled from it across eons, consuming civilizations in terror of its return. Now it had arrived. The Defiant shook as gravity itself bent around the creature. Systems flickered, alarms blared. Lieutenant Adams clutched his console. "Sir, it's not just mass, it's feeding. It's draining our energy, pulling at our minds." In the medical bays below, freed aliens screamed and convulsed. Old traumas surged back as they felt the predator that had stalked their nightmares. Some begged to be killed rather than absorbed again. Admiral Blake stood in the center of the chaos, his face carved in iron. "Status of the Survival Corps." Torres responded, his voice strained. "Deep Hunter teams still inside the collective fragments. They're holding barely, but the new entity, it's ignoring our ships. It wants Earth." Ross's voice cut through the storm. "Then we give it Earth, every monster Earth ever made." Beneath the oceans, Captain Maria Santos and her Deep Hunters clung to life inside the remains of the broken bioship. They had torn it apart from within, and now the pieces were being pulled toward the Void Predator's gravity. "Command, this is Santos," she rasped over the comms. "We've come this far, don't waste the chance, put us in its mouth." Captain Blake's voice answered, tight with steel. "That's a one-way trip." Santos smiled, blood streaking her cheek. "Sir, I grew up hunting things in trenches where sunlight never touched. You don't fight predators by running. You dive into their jaws and gut them from the inside." Her team roared their agreement, not fear, defiance. Dr. Chang burst into the command center, her tablet glowing with frantic calculations. "Admiral, listen. The freed survivors told me something. The collective never tried to kill the predator. They only tried to be big enough to survive its bite. That's why they failed. But humans never tried to be bigger. We made ourselves poisonous." Ross slammed her palm on the table. "Exactly. This isn't about fleets or firepower. It's about infection. We let it eat us and make it regret the taste." Adams stared in disbelief. "You're suggesting sacrifice our people, our planet." "No," Blake said, his voice like thunder. "We don't sacrifice, we gamble. Earth itself becomes the weapon." The order spread like wildfire. Across Earth, scientists, engineers, and soldiers mobilized. Satellites reprogrammed themselves into transmitters. Deep bunkers unleashed sealed biological archives, samples of every disease, every plague, every parasite that had ever tested humanity. But it wasn't unleashed as a missile. It was unleashed as a broadcast. Every ship, every base, every survivor on Earth began transmitting genetic data, immune memories, evolutionary scars. Humanity didn't fire bullets, it fired history. The Void Predator reached with tendrils of shadow, probing Earth's defenses, and it touched the flood of human data. For the first time, it hesitated. The voice in their minds faltered, distorted. "What is this? You carry extinction within you." Ross whispered fiercely, "Yes, choke on it." The Predator's massive form writhed, its surface crawling with distortion. Inside, Santos and her Deep Hunters launched their final assault. They let themselves be pulled into the creature's flesh, cutting, burning, poisoning it with weapons forged in Earth's oldest crucible. "Command," Santos' voice crackled. "We're in, feels like an ocean trench in here, pressure, darkness, teeth everywhere, just another dive." Her team laughed through the static, even as the walls closed in. On the Defiant, Vexahai's crystal body pulsed violently. "Admiral, I can feel it. Your people's minds are inside. They're spreading through it the way they did the collective. Your chaos is unraveling it." Chang's tablet vibrated with impossible readings. "Its biology is breaking down. It can't adapt to all of us. It's drowning in millions of years of human survival." Adams whispered, awestruck. "We turned ourselves into a disease." "No," Blake said softly. "We turned ourselves into monsters." The Predator screamed. Not with sound, but with thought, a wave of agony that shook every mind across the system. The freed aliens collapsed, clutching their heads, but through the pain came something else. Hope. The Void Predator's colossal form split apart, black tissue tearing as fire and chaos spread through its veins. Inside, Santos' final transmission came through, her voice steady despite the storm. "Sir, if anyone's listening, tell Earth's children this. The dark isn't empty, it's full of teeth, but we've always known that, and we've always lit fires to fight it." Her comm went silent. Moments later, the Predator's body convulsed and collapsed, its vast form disintegrating into ash and light. The sky above Earth cleared. The stars returned. Silence fell. On the Defiant, officers stared at the screens in disbelief. The impossible had happened. Humanity had not just survived, they had slain the nightmare that devoured civilizations. The calm channels filled with voices of the freed. Crystalline, insectoid, scaled, furred, all speaking in harmony. Earth humanity, you are no prey. You are the monsters that answered. Weeks later, Earth stood at the center of a galaxy forever changed. Ships from every surviving civilization gathered in orbit, not in suspicion now, but in reverence. Species that had lived in fear for millennia looked to the young world of blue oceans and green forests with awe. Some whispered that humans were too dangerous to live, others called them saviors, but none denied the truth. The galaxy had been reshaped by Earth's defiance. In the Geneva bunker, Blake stood before a gathering of leaders, alien and human alike. His face was lined with grief for those who had fallen, but his voice was steady. You asked us for mercy. What we gave you was worse. We gave you monsters, and monsters don't beg for survival, they make survival. Keithvar, scarred but alive, stepped forward. His crystal body dimmed with sorrow but glowed faintly with hope. Admiral, the galaxy owes you a debt it can never repay, but remember, there will be more shadows, more predators. What will humanity do when they come? Blake looked up at the stars through the bunker's viewport. His eyes burned with the fire of Earth itself. We'll do what we've always done, adapt, fight, and when the dark comes again, it won't find prey. His voice dropped to a whisper, heavy with the weight of history. It will find monsters waiting. Far beyond the edges of known space, fragments of the void predator drifted. In the silence between galaxies, they stirred. Some burned out, others writhed. And somewhere in the endless dark, an older hunger turned its gaze toward the small blue planet that had dared to bite back. The war was won, but the reckoning had only begun.